Hi, Alexandra.
Hi, Milena. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for taking the time today. And
Yes.
it's so good to reconnect with you. And I can't wait to hear everything you're going to teach us and tell us about how to get into your flow.
I know it's something that you hear a lot these days because it has to do a lot with high performance and high performance, peak performance, either in sports or business or creativity, wherever we are into. We want to get into this state of mind, which is flow, that we're going to get the max out of everything, out of what we're doing.
I can't wait to hear about that more. But before we get into it,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk a little bit about I guess how we met
Yeah.
and more so about your life story and how you got to the Human Potential Institute, which is where we met, and we've been staying in touch since then. So, what led you to take on that program?
Well, Milena, I had been in this matter for a long time now. I started with logotherapy, which is it's based in psychology and philosophy, and what it is we need to experience today and now everything about ourselves with everything we have behind, but we need to project it towards the future in the here and now. So it's different kind of therapy than the traditional therapy because it's based on the now, on the present. So I have been doing that for a long time now, probably about 15 years. And then when I became a mom, I started to do a lot of parenting research and started to do a lot of courses there. And then I realized that it's not enough just to know the tools about parenting to be a good parent. It's about working with ourselves. So I started back with working with ourselves and growing. So I started to do mindfulness. So I certified in mindfulness, and I thought that was a good way to start. Um, the foundations for us to being able to find the gap between the thought and the emotions, so we respond to reality, we respond to what's there, to our kids, instead of reacting all the time. So I think that's the base of everything, just getting to know that gap and being able to pause and then
Right.
respond to what is in front of us.
Exactly, which is exactly the situation I found myself last week. We were talking about earlier, dealing with family and and being aware of the pause and taking the time to formulate a response instead of being reactive. So
Exactly.
it was so critical for
Yes.
in that stressful situation. Yeah.
Yeah. And and this has to do with flow 100% because flow is a state of mind. We're going to go into that just now, but we need to kind of set ourselves to get into flow.
Yeah,
And
let's
that
let's talk about
requires.
it. What
Mhm.
is so how do you define flow?
So, flow, it's an altered state of mind, but it's 100% in this awareness, right? Why it is an altered state of mind, because normally we think that when we are at the ultimate performance, we're going to use all our brain, right? They say that we only use 5% of the brain, and we want to reach to use everything that we have here in order to perform best. But in flow, something very, very particular happens. So the prefrontal cortex just shuts down. And that is where the logical thinking happens. And that is where critical, our own critical, little guy that we have there shuts down. Also, it's where we perceive time. So that gets shut down as well. So in flow, instead of using more of the brain, we use less of the brain when this prefrontal cortex just shuts down. But something, you know, when this part shuts down, we start to have another way to communicate. The brain starts to carve new pathways. So that's where creativity starts, and that's where the binding, when the two parts of the brain start communicating, and something, you know, of older ideas that we have combined with a new thing that we're just receiving, and then creativity just brings something new, and something like the eureka moment, or this aha moment. We are able to link these ideas and to flow. So the concept of flow within high performance entrepreneurs or sports athletes, it's practically the same, but used in different activities.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely, based on your explanation, I definitely think that I put myself in a flow a lot when I work. I didn't know that you use less of your brain. I think I use more of my brain, or at least it feels that way to me. But perhaps because I'm so much into what I'm doing, and I'm just fully in the moment, I've realized I cannot even have any kind of background noise. Like I can't listen to podcasts, I can't even listen to music, because I think I'm so focused in doing what I'm doing. That, of course, is my way of trying to do what I need to do in the least amount of time so I can go and play. But what other examples do you have for like when you're in a flow?
Well, yes. Well, as you described it, it's something very particular happens. So you said that all of a sudden you're immersed 100% in the present moment. So that's why, you know, the runners, for instance, they call the runner's high. Or, you know, rappers, when they are into that state, and it's about their state of mind where they just flow, right?
Yeah.
Or an athlete like Michael Phelps, you know, swimming, he gets into this flow and he performs and breaks records. You know, it's like amazing. How can these you know, people get into this breaking and breaking and breaking records nonstop, right? And as you say, it seems like you're using your whole brain, but actually no, because what happens, you just described it, that you're into so much into the working that all of a sudden times just disappear.
Right.
And you thought that you were, you know, writing this thing of work for about 1 hour, but 4 hours pass by and you're like, wow.
Right.
And this is because you're 100% immersed in the present moment. It's what also they call the being in the zone. So for athletes, for example, for me, when I got to experiment flow, it's in the riding the horses.
Right.
So
I was just gonna bring that up. Thank you.
Something very particular happens, which is you have a horse, so you have another brain with you, right? And you're riding and you're jumping, and you need to become one in order to make that perfect dance, in order to flow, in order to perform at your best. But if you're thinking all the time, you're getting on your way. So you need to get into this state where you start dancing with the horse, right? And your inner critic do not get between that. So you're just flowing.
Yeah.
And Milena, it's just like a door to another dimension.
I totally get what you're talking about. So my experience that is similar to that is with when I go kite surfing. You know, when I'm with the kite out in nature, out in the ocean, it's just me and the kite, and we're connected. Yeah, the kite doesn't have a brain, although sometimes I think it does, because it does things on its own. But when I connect to that kite, you know, I get on my knees and I say my little prayer every time I connect to it, because we're one. You know, you're connected with 40 feet to a kite, and you become one. And then when you're in the flow, everything flows. You know, you don't crash, and you're having fun, and you're just doing your moves, and you just like dancing, like you said. It's exactly the same feeling.
Exactly. So when this door opens, because sometimes I think you have experienced that as well. Sometimes when I'm writing and I'm stressed, and I think I'm not stressed, and I get in the horse, and all of a sudden the horse starts acting funny, like I don't feel connected, it becomes dangerous also,
Right.
because I want to jump, but I don't find the distances, because there's something going on in my life that is stressing me out and not letting me get into that flow.
Exactly.
Okay. So, of course, there are things that keep us from that flow and keep us from connecting. But when we get to connect, everything disappears. So, we say selflessness. Why selflessness? Because you don't have the ego, the inner critic telling you because of past experience, or because how you want to perform in the future, or your worries in the future, or whatever. You don't have that nagging inside you, that inner critic just getting in the way. You're just flowing. It's like sinking into the experience.
Yeah, you
You
feel
sink into
invisible.
the experience. You know what to do, so your body and mind just get in sync, and that inner critic just goes away. Now that in business, it's the same thing.
Hmm.
You are so in flow, you're so creative in this that you have in front of you, in this problem that you need to solve, that selflessness, that inner critic just shuts down. So you're more willing to take more risks because you trust yourself.
Right.
It's like it's like everything is perfect because your brain, it's binding ideas in a perfect way, and you are not you don't feel afraid to just get them out. It's not the inner critic that is telling you, oh no, no, wait, this is too dangerous, or oh no, no, what are they gonna think, oh no, wait, probably, nothing. You don't have nothing of that. It's like everything that you have experienced and everything just flourish, like band, like these connecting ideas, and
Right.
you get into this creativity to produce something new. So it is selflessness, timelessness. So as you said, not only time passes by and you don't realize, and you're so in present, so in the moment, that you feel that connection, but also you kind of recognize that stop. Like if you could see everything in slow motion. So I don't know if you watch this movie, The Matrix. Like
Yes.
everything just, it's in slow motion and perfect. So you see the gaps. You can slow motion and kind of go through the challenges with a more, seeing more opportunity. It's
Right.
like your sight just get to another dimension, and all of a sudden you see the whole picture without having to analyze it. So it's amazing. It's amazing because you see, like in the horse, I see the distances, but to be able to jump the obstacle, but I'm not so self-conscious about just finding exactly where, and if not, I'm gonna crash, or oh, I'm gonna go too far away and jump, the jump is gonna get dangerous. It's like you see the whole picture and you trust, but it is actually seeing the whole picture. So in business is the same, or whatever you're doing, you kind of see the whole picture without having to calculate with this part of the brain, and everything just flow. Now that doesn't mean that in flow you don't make mistakes. There was an athlete that said, when I'm in flow, I feel like Superman until I'm not.
Right.
Right? So it is very important to train and to de-risk when we're in flow, especially if we perform risk sports. We need to be able to train for when that decision comes to us. We really see the whole picture, and we de-risk as much as possible. Okay, but that is trainable. The thing that we really want to know is that everyone can get into flow. Okay, it's not like you have to train to get in flow. You can train to be in flow more time, like in the past, when when people have these moments of inspiration, they call it like, oh, the muses just visited me today. And it's not the muses, it's just this being able to get into flow, and then the aha moment comes, and then you get the right idea. So now we know that we can train to get into that state of mind, which is flow, and not just wait for it.
So how do you train?
So we're gonna get into that.
All right.
But before that, I have to say that also another characteristic is effortless. When you get to be into flow, everything becomes effortless.
That's
It
a
doesn't mean
big
like,
characteristics with Unhustle.
yes,
That's exactly what we're trying to do.
that's what,
Get your work done, but in less time and effortless. Yes.
exactly. So if you see, it's selflessness, timeless, and also effortless. If you see these athletes when they are running a marathon and they are coming, to the last, just run to the last part, you see them that the body is struggling, right? But you see them like in this flow, like if they were like, it's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like Michael Phelps, like everything becomes effortless. You kind of sink into this new, as a door, as I was telling you, right? You get
Right.
into this door and everything just flow, and you're in the flow. So
Yep.
it's effortless. And another thing that is important to mention is that richness.
Mm-hmm.
I overthink some things sometimes about, oh, why do I do the writing? Am I so passionate about doing it? And I realized over time that yes, it's because it gets me into flow. But yeah, it gets me into flow in that moment. And then what? Then you have this richness. You
Mm-hmm.
become a better human being because you have this is something that is physically, you have all these neurotransmitters that allow your body to relax, that allow your body to be more in the present moment, and it becomes like a meditation.
Mm-hmm.
People that meditate, are better people, happier people, more satisfied, they give more to others. So being in this state of flow not only enriches the thing you're doing in the present moment, but it enriches your life in general. So as you mentioned that you do the kite surfing, why do you do the kite surfing? It is something that you do because it gives you pleasure in the moment, and you
Mm-hmm.
think that you're every day you're improving, you're mastering it. But not only that, it does make you a better person.
It makes me more creative for sure. So if I have a
Yes.
business problem, instead of sitting on the computer and trying to solve my business problem, I go out for a kite session. I go outside, I enjoy the sun, I enjoy the ocean. And by getting myself in a flow, all of a sudden the solution comes to me for my business problem, and I don't
Yes.
even think about it. And I go back and I'm like, okay, well, I
Yes.
just need to go kite, obviously.
And that's something, we're going to talk about, because you say, how do we train to get more into flow?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's talk about it.
So it has to do a lot with our habits, right? And also it has to do with recovering time. Because think about this. If we are 24/7 in flow, we're going to burn out.
Right.
It's impossible. So it has to do with our habits. And I will start with sleep. Sleep is fundamental. We need to get our body, rested, our mind rested, so we are able to produce these neurotransmitters that are so important to get into flow. Because it is not only that we are going to get in flow here, we're going to get in flow in our mind, in our body, the whole thing, right? So if we don't have the rest we need, we're not going to produce enough dopamine, enough norepinephrine, which is the focus neurotransmitters that we need to be in the present moment and be alert and be concentrated. So it is very important that we get our sleep. Okay.
Okay. So sleep
Everyone
number
is
one.
Sleep is number one.
Sleep number one.
Everyone is different. So some people need more sleep, some others need less, but it's important that we get our sleep. Okay. Another thing that is very important is hydration. So what I do is I always, when I go to sleep, I always have a pint just beside my bed. And as soon as I wake up, I drink the pint of water. So that gets you hydrated, because at night we dehydrate a little bit. So that gets you a fresh start. Another thing that I do is, as soon as I wake up, I don't go to my emails. I don't go to my text. I simply go into a state of meditation. So I wake up, I drink my water, and then I meditate. It varies how much time I meditate, but normally I do 10 minutes of meditation in the very early morning. And right after that, I get to my first task I have, like the first obstacle I have in front of me. And this, I would think about this before. We're going to go over that. But the first thing, it's like the golden hour. That golden hour, it's going to keep me from just giving face to the first thing I need to get done. Sometimes it's not the really fun thing I need to work on, right? Maybe it is, just writing an email that is going to be very difficult, or going through my taxes, whatever it is. I just get that golden hour and get that done, because that is going to leave me room for other things. Okay.
So you start with the most difficult project
I do.
First. Yep.
I do. And then if I get that done before the hour, then I, get to my other thing I have in the list. Okay. So that's very important, because you see, Milena, when we have anxiety of having something that we need to get done, but we're not doing it, that creates procrastination, anxiety. We start doing things that has nothing to do with that task, because we feel challenged, we feel anxiety towards that thing, and we never get it done. And that we carry through days, weeks, years. So it's very important that we discipline ourselves into doing the first thing we need to get done, first thing in the morning, and we call it like golden hour. Okay.
Okay. So you drink water, you meditate, and then you get stuff done. Is that basically your morning routine?
Yes, but I wake up very early, so I still have a lot of space in between. So after I do that, if I have the time, I go and exercise, do my HIIT exercise, which is a high intensity training. That gets my endorphins going. Okay, so it's very important for me to have that going, to be able to, to do the following tasks. Then I get into my coaching sessions. I have coaching sessions. I do like 3 or 4. And after those coaching sessions, I go to my horse riding.
Okay.
So by that time, by doing all of those exercises in the morning, of the meditation, of the HIIT exercise, I get into this flow when I'm with my clients. So I'm being able to listen in a better state of mind, and I'm being able to connect with them in a way that I ask the right questions, so they have that eureka moment, because they are the experts on themselves. So I connect to them in a different level when I'm doing all this routine in the morning, because I'm being able to get more into flow with them. And now, saying this, I need to tell you that there is individual flow and collective flow. So when one person gets in flow, and we are, you know, connecting with another person, we can get in flow. Like right now we're having a conversation, we're getting a lot into it, we are excited, so together we're creating that collective flow. So that happens the same with your clients. When you are with this open mindset, and when you have all the right things, so that flow can start triggering, you start being in flow, and also the person you're connecting with starts being in flow as well.
So
So
it's
that
contagious.
exactly, that's very important. That's why when you listen to a band that is playing and they all get into flow, and then all this starts to go with the audience, right? Then all the audience, the group members, they are all in flow. That's why we love so much concerts, because you get into that collective flow and everyone is kind of in the same level of altered state of mind,
Or
right?
like a yoga festival like Wanderlust, where everybody's in a flow.
Exactly.
Okay, so for
Exactly.
somebody, so following your tips, for if somebody wants to get into a flow, your recommendations are sleep, hydration, meditation, get your most challenging project done first,
Hmm.
exercise. Did I miss anything?
Yes, I still have to tell you about more
Okay,
things.
okay.
A very, very important practice is the gratefulness practice. Okay, so feeling grateful about all these things that you have in life. Well, there's this question: what is first, happiness or gratefulness? You know, and I leave it that to you, so you think about it. So being grateful is something we can train the brain into the positive, and it's trainable, because the brain is going to always tell you the bad thing about the situation in order to protect yourself. So we tend, all human beings, we tend to see the negative about the things that we have in front of us. But this is, we're wired like that. This is to protect us. But that gets us a lot into trouble, into, and also into this state of mind of being very narrow and very tight and everything is dark. So we need to train the brain into seeing the positive things around us, even if everything is dark, even if we're experiencing a lot of adversity, there is always this positive thing, you know, like, I don't know, if you lost somebody you love, all these people that come to you and want to comfort you, that's a positive thing. So it's the gift within the moment. So
So
being able to practice that, being grateful to others. And I when I started training this at 3 o'clock p.m., I would always think about 3 people that I'm grateful of, and I would send them a message. And this is something that in the beginning it was difficult to see, you know, because sometimes you don't want to be grateful, but you train your brain to be grateful. So this is a very good practice to have into getting into flow, because it's gonna make your mindset change. Because no matter what you're going through, at 3 o'clock every day, I'm gonna send those 3 messages of being grateful.
so what you're saying is having a gratitude practice every day
Yes,
helps increase your satisfaction in life, increases your happiness.
yes,
And you're saying having the practice, not necessarily being grateful in that moment that you're trying to achieve flow, but just having the practice in general on a daily
exactly.
basis makes you
Mhm.
just a happier, more satisfied, more fulfilled person.
Yes, and
And
being
that,
able to get into flow easier, because
okay,
as
got
you
it.
see, you know, this is like the foundation of being able to have that you know, state of mind, that health, that positiveness that is going to get you into flow easily,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
like
more.
you practice of doing it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon for 3 people. That's good.
Yes, it's like, you know, and it's an exercise, and all of a sudden you realize that, you know, I have been doing that for almost a year and a half, and oh my god, I feel grateful like much more than before.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take me that, you know, effort to think about, oh, why I already told her, I already, you know, it just comes
So,
because you're training that part of the brain to be more grateful and to be open to positivity and see, you know, it's like thinking out of the box, because sometimes, yes, it's difficult and you don't want to feel grateful, but you force your mind to think out of the box to get you to another state of mind. And this is very good in business as well, because sometimes in business you would think that the alternative is just too narrow. You have this or this to choose
mm-hmm.
from.
Mm-hmm.
But all of a sudden, if you get to train this more and more, you realize that it's not just, you know, here, that you start seeing like here, and this, you have all these gray gamma. It's not just black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just starting to see that. And it's very powerful. And the other thing that I use to get into flow a lot is being in nature, as
Mm.
you just described. It's
Yeah,
for me,
it's something
I
I
need to,
practice every day.
yes, for me, I need to get into flow, not only because I want to ride horses, but I want to get into flow because flow, you know, it's the best for creativity in business,
Mm-hmm.
in whatever, in relationships. You need to be able to have that growth mindset and being able to think out of the box and to see the alternatives, you know, the the opportunity within the moment. And
For me, I think nature just naturally teaches me to be mindful.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And so um, when I'm outside, nature creates its own flow. But I also
yeah,
do forest therapy, forest bathing in Tahoe. So you could I definitely feel the benefits from it. From a, you know, if you're stressed out, or if you're overwhelmed, or again if you have some kind of a problem to solve, instead of being in the office, I go outside, I go for a hike, I get my
yes,
body moving, and then just by naturally by being outside, um, you you get your solution. So you get that aha
yes,
moment. So it definitely,
exactly.
I've definitely seen that happen.
You know, Milena, and that has science behind.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Absolutely.
because when you are, let's see, you are like trying to solve a problem in a meeting with you know, 5 other people, and you're trying to solve the problem and you see the options, but the options are not good, and you're, you know, you have seen the numbers and you are like up to here. There is a moment when you cannot think more, when you
Right.
feel flooded. And this is, you know, the cortisol hormones. So
Mm-hmm.
your body starts to, you know, just get intoxicated by cortisol. And what happens in the prefrontal cortex and then the hypothalamus, everything, it's like getting intoxicated with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of cortisol gets you intoxicated like alcohol, and all of a sudden you don't focus, you
Right.
don't see things clearly. And this is very important to take, you know, big decisions in a business, for instance. And the same with when you're doing a sports, especially with sports that requires your full attention. When that get intoxicated and you cannot think straight and see clearly, you get all fussy and mistakes starts to happen. So that is the time when I say stop,
Mm-hmm.
and I go for a run or I go for a walk or I go in my horse, and you submerge yourself into nature. And why? Because when you're in nature and you're 100% present and focused, doing a mindful walk or surfing or riding the horse or doing the kite surfing, whatever it is you're doing, you get this sense of immensity.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of you get into a micro flow, because your body, your whole being gets into this symphony and get into this greatness of being surrounded by, I don't know how many years have I taken to create this ocean or to create these cliffs, or, you know, you are your time perception gets like sync in the time perception and the wonder and the beautiful nature. So what happens in your body is that immediately all the neurotransmitters that are like cortisol get flushed.
Mm-hmm.
So everything gets flushed, and all of a sudden you let your body be and your mind be in the present moment, and somehow back in the brain is still working with this problem that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And something amazing happened. You let yourself be in the present, you let yourself being in that state of mind, and that background just still working, you know, in this unconscious, because the unconscious part of the brain is limitless.
Mm-hmm.
The conscious part of the brain, it's limited, right? We have,
Right.
it's like a computer. You have certain amount of bits working for you. That's what you get flooded, and it's like, I cannot do it anymore. But the subconscious part is limitless. So you leave that part working, you're into the present moment, and all the hormones, stress hormones flush, and all of a sudden you have like, oh, I know, I couldn't see this option and it's coming to me. It's like you let that part of the brain work, you know, where all the binding ideas from what you know from your experience, what you know from your knowledge and intelligence, but also what emerging now, the opportunity that's emerging now. And all of a sudden everything comes to you, and you create that new path, because it is creating a new path in the brain. You create this new thing, and you're like, yes, I know how to do this, I know how to solve this. How could I didn't see this option?
Right.
And then
Exactly.
you have your creativity and your, you know how to solve the problem.
Yes, and that's where I was talking about the forest bathing. I mean, it's actually a practice that originated in Japan, because they saw their people just being so bombarded with work and living in the cities and getting depressed, and I think they call it koshari, death by overworked. So they actually came up with this practice, forest bathing, and I started doing that a while back, and it's proven scientifically that it does lower your stress level, and it does increase your
Yes.
creativity, and it does get you relaxed. I mean, it's our natural state. It's where we used to live, and so by migrating to the cities, we kind of lose that touch with nature a little bit.
Yes.
So
Yes, 100%. And there's that vibration in our body that when we are, very disconnected from nature, our stress hormones just starts firing all the time.
right.
And we cannot get the good sleep that we want. When we fly a lot in airplanes, that also get our vibration, body vibration, gets that off.
Yeah.
So it's important to be in contact with nature. So all these retreats that you do,
Yeah.
it's an opportunity to rewind and connect more with our creativity, to be able to solve problems and think out of the box.
Yeah, I use it daily basis. I'm lucky that I live in nature. I don't live in a city, so I have that right outside my door, and I use it on a daily basis to relax and to come up with creative problems. And I see big effects from it, and I wish more people would take more time to spend outside instead of sitting inside watching TV or something.
Exactly. There's and we need to train that too, because it's so easy to say, oh, I need this rest, I'm gonna just watch TV, and we don't realize that is not doing any good. That is not resting our bodies. The contrary,
Right. Exactly.
That's gonna get us more stressed, more excited. That's not gonna get us to this center place that we need to be able to just reconnect and be more productive and have more rest. So
Exactly.
going back to the routine, just one last thing that I do every day around 5 p.m. It's like I do my to-do list for the next day, and I choose which thing is going to go first on the golden hour. That's very, very important. That way, your brain is like, you decharge everything and like, this is what I need to do, and you number them. and you know which is the thing that you're going to start first. So you kind of set everything in order for success.
Yeah, that's a very good point as well. It's really important to not go through that decision making in the morning as
Exactly.
to what you have to do, because that's gonna play tricks on you, and that's just gonna
Yes.
convince you
Yes.
that you should start checking your emails or your Instagram
Yes.
feed or something. And so, yeah, that's an excellent point. So I got 8 things written down so far. We got the sleep, hydration, meditation, golden hour, heat, exercise, gratitude, nature, and setting your goal for the next day. Anything else that
Mm-hmm.
comes to mind?
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's going to set you up for a better sleep, because you don't need to be thinking about, oh, I need to do this and how am I going to do this and when. It's like you already had that into your schedule just that moment to realize and think, what is it that I need to be doing tomorrow in order to set myself for success, to do what I really want to do. And this is living more consciously rather than more mechanically.
Mm-hmm.
So when we start living more consciously, we're gonna get into that state of flow much more easier, because you decide about your well-being. You decide about where do you want to put exactly your energy. And it looks like, oh, I have to do this and this, but in the end it becomes very natural, because you're deciding. You're not letting things decide for you, or just your mechanic way of reacting to life. Is just like you're responding, and you're like, it's like what they taught us when we are little. How do we cross the street, right? So we stop, we look, and then we go. So that stop we put into our lives can be, going kite surfing, just meditating, being in contact with ourselves, being in contact with life, with nature. We stop, we look. When we look and we are into present, because you already stopped, so you're 100% present, you have the ability to look. And there is where you can see opportunity.
Right.
Opportunity arises. And instead of your side being like this, it just opened up. And you're
Exactly.
looking because you stopped. You're
That's
looking, right? And then you go, you take the opportunity.
Yep.
So that's creating the opportunity to live more into flow. You're deciding little by little, stopping, having those stops, putting signs all over, like being grateful. Stop. Life is overwhelming, but stop. You have all these things to be grateful of.
Yep. Exactly what I'm trying to do with Unhustle. Exactly that.
Yeah, yeah.
Taking that time to reconnect with yourself and take a pause so you can move forward with your life and
Yes,
from a different perspective.
yes.
Are there any resources, books, podcasts, anything you want to mention with regards to flow if people want to research that even more?
Yes, Steven Kotler, he
Okay.
is my master. He is great. He has a lot of books that in relation to flow, a lot of podcasts as well.
What's his name again?
Uh,
Stephen
Steven Kotler.
Cutler.
Uh-huh. And
Okay.
I studied with him and Jamie Will at the Flow Genome Project. And Steven Kotler taught us a lot about flow for writers. So I love writing as well. So it's important to get into flow when you're writing, so you're able to to express and combine these ideas, and being able to communicate in a in a different, innovative way. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Maslow, for instance, started to talk about flow as a peak performance, because he started to study you know, all these people that were very successful. So he wanted to see, like, why were they successful. So he was one of the ones that discovered that, oh, okay, so these people get into this like zone where they start to being, you know, perform their best and feel their best, because, you know, it's when you're in flow, you're not only feeling your best, but you're performing your best.
Right.
Yes. So he studied that as well. So Maslow, it would be another.
Okay. Maslow, as in Abraham Maslow?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay. So we have Stephen Cutler and Jamie Whale and Maslow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for these additional resources in case people want to look into that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay. And how can people find out more about you and connect with you?
Well, I have my webpage, Be Inspire, Be Inspire, and .land. They can, you know, see my profile there and get in contact with me. I like to work with my clients with flow and also with their goals. I think it's very important to have goals, small goals, big goals. I like to work on the massive transformative purpose, which also we work on passion. Then, you know, to look for your passion. A lot of people are lost, like they don't know what they're passionate about. We can talk about flow, and they're like, well, you know, I don't have any passion, so how am I going to start getting the flow, right? So there is a way and a recipe to be able to find your passions through curiosity. And then when you have your passion and you want to make this bigger, it's not just about you, but it's about the we, the others. That's where the purpose arises, right? So to have people that have purpose in their lives, there are people that are happier and live with this sense of life is worth, right? Because happiness, we cannot have it all the time, right? It's like flow. We can live in a state of being content and being open, but there are going to be times that we're not going to be happy. Okay,
it's
and
the
we
same
need to
thing
be
as
able
flow.
to.
If you're happy all the time, you'll get burned out being
Exactly.
happy.
Exactly. So yes.
Excellent, Alexandra. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Milena.
Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to add?
Well, you know, as I was saying, I wish everyone would be open to experiment flow and to experiment their passions and to have more purpose in lives in order to be more happy and you know, more into the present moment. I would say, you know, more into the present moment and just seeing the opportunity within every moment.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, and
You're welcome. Thank
enjoy
you.
the flow.
Okay, enjoy the flow. Yeah.